welcome. I think that we've all seen or experienced art and paintings and sculptures and wondered what is the secret to this world? How do they do this? Where does this creativity come from? Where's the spirit come from? Is it taught? Are they born with it? Well, my next guest is Larry Lewis, and he wrote the book Where Paint Goes. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you. Good
So
morning.
glad that you're here. And we do have a lot of questions. Were you born with it? Was it taught? How does this art and this creative side happen?
Well, some of it's actually a mystery to me, but I guess you might say, or one might say, I was born with it. It seemed inherent from a very young age. I started drawing and sketching in elementary school and kind of worked it out quick that I had some talent there. I was actually represented by my first gallery before I got out of high school.
Oh my.
And in between elementary school and high school, I started visiting galleries and museums. And I'd look at things, look at paintings that interested me. And then I'd return home and try and replicate what I saw. And through time, I got better at it. I started out with watercolor and moved on to other mediums.
So this book that you wrote,
Yes,
Where
ma'am.
Paint Goes, is not so much about you, but you're speaking more to the art of it and to the other creatives in the world. Is that right?
Well, actually, I think I'm speaking to both. It The subtitle is the art that affected my life and the life that affected my art. It's all combined. It's a network. Um, yes, it's about me, but it's at the same time about how that happened, that experience happened all through my life. The art that affected my life and the life that affected my art and change.
What would you want someone to know? What is the overall message of this book? What's the big message, the takeaway you want people to understand?
I would think the idea of experiencing art, not just looking at it and then experiencing it in that way, but looking at it through an artist's eyes and trying or maybe getting the experience of what it takes to make art, how experience affects art, and what affects the final outcome that people go to a museum or a gallery and experience.
You have quite a biography, quite a resume. Would you begin to share as I look at these words? Painter, cartoonist, illustrator, sculptor, art director, prop designer, exhibit designer, and it goes on and on. Does one lead to another? How do they all tie in?
Um, I found out early that I really wanted to be a fine artist. Every job that I took, I thought it best to be in a creative field in one way or another. So it seemed logical to me to be a creative director, an art director, or to do design or to be involved in visual presentation, that it was a good idea. It was a logical advancement to being a fine artist.
What motivates you? What is it that you see that takes your breath away and you say, I need to recreate that with my breath?
Ooh, tough question. Um, well, there's certain things that just excite me visually. Um, Other things excite me visually that um, I want to hold sacred to myself, and I don't feel like sharing with other people. But certain things, and it could be anything, walking down the street and seeing somebody, seeing a certain thing happen, and it triggers something that says, you should recreate that, or recreate that experience, or try and tell that story.
How
Did,
does it
did that
when you
help?
see something and you recreate it, but someone relays it back to you and it's said differently, it's breathed in differently than how you meant it. Is that a compliment? Or does that mean you didn't recreate it as best you could?
No, it as long as when I express something with my artwork, there's a response, whether it's negative
Ah,
or positive,
wow.
really doesn't matter.
Very interesting. You kind of made me stop and pause on that. There's
Oops,
no wrong way to look at your art then.
no. I many times I've had people break down into tears in looking at my work, either for good or for bad. And I received an emotional response. That's wonderful.
Hmm,
The art's to be experienced. And when people experience it, they have response or emotion. And
sure.
that's perfect.
That's what you want. Does your art define you as a person? Are you an artist first? What are you first?
Well, I would have to say absolutely yes, it defines me as a person.
Mm.
Um, Several years ago, while I was living in Mexico, there was a fellow artist that frequented the little village that I lived in. William Morris, he's a very well known glass sculptor. And he came into the village and looked me up right off. And he had that exact question: does art define us as people?
Mm,
And I was kind of taken aback and had to say, hey, I need a little time to think about this. And
sure.
I caught him the next day and said, yes, absolutely. Because of your the artist's intimate relationship with what they do, it has to define you as a person, or else you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
Hmm. So I understand that a lot of this you were born with. How much of this was taught?
uh, well, I have no formal training, so
None.
I would guess
Wow.
that most people would call me what's self-taught, um, but uh, not really, as I motivated myself, but I went to galleries and museums and collected information and acted on that information. So, in that way, I guess I was self taught.
Hmm. When I look at the name of your book, Where Paint Goes, if I were to turn that into a question, what is the answer?
Everywhere. Um, the idea of actually the subtitle of the book, you know, art influences life, life influences art.
Hmm. Hmm. It's all tied in.
Yes.
When you look back at your career, and it's been a long career, over 50 years you've been doing this. You're a veteran of the creative arts industry. Is there one piece that you go, "That was my home run. That was my grand slam. That's what I'll
Well,
be known for"?
okay. No,
No.
no. There's over the period of time that I've been working, I've created over 5,000 pieces.
Mm.
Um, in creating all those pieces, there were many pieces that were at a specific time that I looked at and went back and stepped back and said, wow, I'm really proud of that. I'm happy with that. That is what I was actually trying to accomplish. Um, so many pieces, not one.
What does the future look like?
Oh my gosh. Um, that's a tough question. I don't want to seem like a feudalist, but with the advent and involvement in technology, I'm wondering, I'm not secure in the thought, but I'm wondering that maybe in my lifetime, I might look at the world without a need for artists.
What?
Yeah. Um, Digital three-dimensional printing is already there where a person that's not an artist can recreate or create a sculpture. With digital advent, people can create with limited abilities other than moving a mouse or typing on keys, um, what's called or deemed as artwork.
Huh.
I
Eh,
don't know if you've heard just recently the Italian artist that sold an invisible sculpture.
no.
Yes. Um, so I question the future of the art world.
That would make you question for sure. I have to think, there's an art and a science. So computers and technology can do the science, but they don't breathe the life into it. They don't have the experiences. They don't bring the emotion and the soul into it that an artist like you does.
Well, that's what's in question.
Hmm.
Is I'm a believer in, I guess, the pseudo classical description of art, that art is one of the humanities. Therefore, it requires a discipline. Without the discipline, it's not art.
Hmm. Well, we are talking to Mr. Larry Lewis, who is the author of the book Where Paint Goes: The Art That Affected My Life and the Life That Affected My Art. Larry, I'm so glad that you joined us, and I can't wait to dive in and just take a look at your book. I hope that you will consider purchasing this book and giving Larry Lewis a rating on the platforms, because those ratings really make a difference. You can reach Larry Lewis through www.writersrepublic.com. And Larry, thank you so much for joining us today. Your work is beautiful, and I hope that you sell lots and lots of copies of Where Paint Goes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry. Have a great day.